ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our very first ever improvised documentary, The Broken Truth. It's going to be a whole lot of fun tonight. First time we've ever tried this, first time we've ever done anything like this, at least here on the network. So this is very experimental, but it's going to be a lot of fun. So first and foremost, I want to introduce you to our cast. Let's hear it for Miss Karen Bond, Darren Ingram, Amanda Benjamin, Tom Carosa, Jane Brucker, Todd Stubler, Caitlin McCormick, Dari Mills, Danny Roque, and our producer, Craig Jackman. Let's hear it for all of our performers here this evening. I am so blessed, so thankful to be able to be on this journey, this experiment with these amazing performers and brilliant minds as we try and create the greatest documentary ever. Improvised for you here tonight. So we will see all of these cast members throughout the documentary, but first, what we need from you guys at home are all of the things that we're going to talk about in this documentary. First thing we need from you guys at home, so go ahead and feed it into the YouTube chat here if you're on the YouTubes with us. We need a year in the past 50 years. Any year, so if my math is correct, from 71 till now, just give us any year. 1989 is the one that I see first. Thank you, Nicole Pierce, for that. 1989 is that year. So next we need a mundane action. If you've seen Broken News, this is a lot like Broken News on our shows that we do on Friday and Saturday night. Anything that's just like somebody mowed his lawn, somebody painted a wall, somebody brushed their teeth, any sort of mundane thing that occurred here in the someone had there's a lot of good ones here. I've got eating a hot dog, broken shoelace, bought stamps, took a shower. We're going to go ahead and mix those first two that I see from Kelsey and Mel. Eating a hot dog with a broken shoelace is going to be what this documentary is about. Eating a hot dog with a broken shoelace. Next thing I need is a rare item, animal, or person. Something that is rare. A rare item, animal, or person is going to be the next thing that we need from you guys in the audience to make this work. Anything that's rare. While you guys are thinking of that, I'm going to plant this in your head. A jackalope. From Mel. Thank you. A jackalope is going to be the rare item on the list. It's an animal, obviously. So next we need an unrelated to anything that we've talked about, a random fact. True or made up. A true or made up random fact. We actually need a couple of these. So go ahead and fill the chat with them as they come to your brain, right behind your face. And then, as you guys are filling those in, I'll plant this one in your brain, a ludicrous motive for a crime. Just the silliest motive for a crime that you can think of. Gosh, Mel is just filling them up with really good ones. I would use that, Mel, but I've already got two of your suggestions. Let's see what else is happening here. David Benjamin says, skyscrapers by definition are 30 stories tall exactly. We're going to use that as the first one. Skyscrapers by definition are 30 stories tall exactly. The next one is a dog's pants are intangible. I don't know what that means. Dogs cannot have chocolate, from Diana. So that's our second random fact. Dogs cannot have chocolate. And finally, the rare motive for a crime, or a ludicrous motive for a crime, is there's a crack in the sidewalk. Thank you, Chloe. There's a crack in the sidewalk. Thank you for everybody at home in the YouTube chat for helping us fill out all of these things that we need for this improvised documentary. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce to you the very first episode of The Broken Truth. Hello, my name is Ronald Durkin. I'm just an average kid from Southern California who loves movies. This is why I went to film school, to become a famous movie director. Those dreams didn't work out for me. And now I've got a ton of equipment. Not much to work on, especially these days. And so I started to think. I love popular documentary podcasts like Up and Vanished, In the Dark, or Dolly Parton's America. And I wanted to be the next young documentary filmmaker to just blow the country's minds, to turn this country on its head, nay, to turn the world on its head. And one day, as I was eating breakfast in my parents' basement, good old-fashioned bowl of frosted mini-wheats, my dad came downstairs. He had a newspaper clipping in his hand, and he asked me, "Son, have you ever heard the story of the hot dog and the broken shoelace?" I said, "No, Dad, no. Nobody ever eats hot dogs with broken shoelaces. This is crazy." He showed me a newspaper article from 1989. This event was something that changed the world, and hardly anyone ever talks about. The person eating the hot dog was never identified. No motives ever came to light as to why they did what they did. And I thought, as I stared into my tangled mess of cereal that had been in the milk for too long, this is it. This is a sign from above. This is my big break into documentary filmmaking. And so, with only this newspaper clipping to go by, I turned to the internet. And as young people like me know, you can find anything on the internet, right? No, it wasn't that easy. In fact, all I could find about this event back in 1989 was a single interview with a witness who saw it happen. The interview was on YouTube. It was a woman by the name of Beth Sawmore. And before I get any deeper into the story, I'd like to share that interview with you now.
Beth, you don't look right. What happened?
Look, I seen a lot, okay?
Yeah.
I was skipping class. I wasn't even supposed to be there.
Well, you're shaking. What happened? What did you see?
Okay. Me and my buddy Kojak, right? We were
Yeah.
just gonna go and we were just like, Berlin Wall's fallen, like,
Yeah.
time to live our lives, right? So we got
Yeah.
some smokes and we went out to the football field.
Yeah.
We thought we were the only people out there. You know, we swiped the keys from the PE office. We should have been the only people out there.
Right. Yeah.
And we heard some footsteps. And it wasn't just normal footsteps. It was like there was something wrong with the footstep. Like, step.
Oh.
Right?
Right.
So we doused our cigarettes. And we dove under the bleachers, right?
Right. Yeah.
That's what I saw coming along the bleachers, right at eye level. Like a horror movie or something, man. It was just the broken shoelace dragging along.
Oh man.
And whoever it was sat down right on top of us. I don't know if he knew we were there, but we were holding our breaths.
Yeah.
And we could hear it, man. We could hear the chewing.
Oh.
We could smell the hot dog. A wrapper floated down through the slats. It landed right on me.
Oh.
I didn't see who it was, man, but I will never forget that laugh. It was like a high-pitched laugh, and then there was some kind of rattling sound, and then there was a huh. That's all I know.
Well, what about the wrapper? I mean, Beth, the wrapper, was it have relish or mustard? What was on the wrapper?
I burned it. I took my lighter for my cigarette and I burned it up because I thought no one else should have to see this.
That was evidence, you fool. They could have done something.
Well, what am I, suspended?
Beth. Beth. Beth.
I quit. I'm going to live in an RV.
This was the only interview that I could find on the internet about this event. It said in the description that this happened at Lifehouse High School. This rang a bell for me. Lifehouse High School. My PE teacher in high school used to tell stories about teaching there. It was in another county, but I remember that exactly because I used to think, wow, that I wonder if the members of the band Lifehouse went to that high school. But I digress. I had to get in touch with my old PE teacher. Luckily, he was still teaching at the local high school that I went to, so I went and I sat down with him. It's okay if I record this, right?
Yeah. Do what you got to do.
And just say for the camera your name, your title, and the school that you work for, please.
Yeah, so I'm Fred. You know that. And I'm the I'm sorry. And I'm the PE coach at Lifehouse High School. Got transferred there about, I don't know, 35 years ago, 40 years ago, something like that.
And how long did you work there before you came to this one?
Oh gosh. Just a few years.
And what did you teach? You taught PE there as well?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I know, so it's what I do.
So while you were teaching there, did you ever hear anything about this event?
The hot dog with the shoelace?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a big deal, man. That was a big deal. And look, I don't want to scare you or nothing, but a lot of people shied away from that thing. And it was there was a lot of interest and a lot of movement, a lot of moving parts and all that, but they never figured it out, right? It's like, hunting for a jackalope, right? You know it's out there, but you never catch it because you're not sure if it really is real or not. So, man, I don't want you spinning your wheels or nothing. I mean, I like you running because you look like you got a little chunk under there, don't you? You're hiding a little chunk under there, aren't you? Yeah. So, I mean, maybe get a little less of them hot dogs, right? Stop working the hot dogs as much. And maybe get a good pair of shoelaces because you look like you could use a run, maybe or two.
All right. Enough about me. Let's.
Oh, sorry.
As I try and dig to the bottom of this event, is there anything you can tell me? Any leads that I can go on?
Well, look, I don't want you going down the wrong path. I'd hate for you to do that. But if you're gonna go after it, I don't know, find yourself a hot dog expert or a shoelace expert or something. You know what I mean? Just don't waste your time too much. You know what I'm saying? I don't want you to get too far down this.
Okay. Thanks. Thank you, Fred.
Yeah, man.
The warnings were clear. This was going to be a dangerous venture. But I couldn't stop now. I had been bitten by the truth bug. And when the truth bug bites, it causes you to do crazy things. So I called, I Googled around a bit, and I called the world-renowned expert in eating hot dogs with impaired shoe footwear. He called himself the W4.
Ronald Durkin.
Do I call you W? Do I call you 4?
My friends call me Wafor. But you're not my friend, Ronald Durkin. You've already stumbled into a very dangerous territory. Hot dogs, shoelaces. Those are just the metaphors, the symbols.
What can you tell me about these symbols?
I will tell you nothing except to turn back right now. Go back before it's too late. You will uncover something that will harm you for the rest of your mortal existence. Hot dogs, shoelaces. I'll tell you one thing. You can find what you need in a skyscraper, a true skyscraper, one that's exactly 30 stories tall. And the very tippy top there's a file cabinet. That file cabinet will explain to you what is really meant by the wiener and the string.
Is there anything you can tell me about this particular event in 89?
Well, would it surprise you to know that I was there myself?
What role did you play?
I wasn't really there. I was just teasing you. I wasn't there. I just thought it'd be great if I was, right? I'd have some first-hand information. As it is, I can only tell you this. The person in that gymnasium who sat on the bleachers and dropped that wrapper before it was burned is very close to you, one way or another. Goodbye, Ronald. Stop. Go back. You're a fool. Go.
And with that, I stood up and tried to leave his apartment. It was locked. Long story. Anywho, I got home and I did as much research as I could. I started to, I felt like Sandra Bullock in the net. I was just typing in green. My whole life was just covered in green and white typing and with blue in it. I got so buried so deep in this that I knew at this point I could never turn back. That's when I got in touch with the world's leading expert on the effects of eating hot dogs with broken shoelaces. Dr. Gloria Studenberger agreed to sit down with me for an interview. And that's when I put the camera right in her face and I asked her, what effect did this have on the world? What is it that nobody is talking about? I understand that it just seemed like a simple thing to many, but I'm hearing that there's danger. There are ripples caused by this.
Yes, Paul. Yeah, yes. Ronald, you would not believe some of the effects that this had in the world. It has gone all the way to the top. For instance, if you remember in 1989, that was the final year of the Ronald Reagan presidency. If you recall, Ronald Reagan was very, very fond of having barbecues with hot dogs. And this really sent off a ripple effect. And if you also remember that same year on January 20th, George Bush was inaugurated president, and he has some pictures out there of him with a broken shoelace. I can't help but wonder if the outgoing president and the incoming president enjoyed hot dogs with broken shoelaces. Then, later on in that year, in March, two companies, one is Time Inc. and Warner Communications, merged together to form the company Time Warner, who also was very interested in covering events such as inaugurations and presidential dinners. They moved into a brand new 30-story skyscraper as their headquarters in LA and continued broadcasting these images of Ronald Reagan having barbecues at his house and George Bush running around with broken shoelaces. I think that they are trying to tell the world something.
Is there any possibility that either of those presidents could have been at Lifehouse High School in 1989?
You never know, because at the end of a president's term and at the beginning of a president's term, there are a lot of things that go unnoticed because of the transition period. So it would have been very, very simple for them to sneak out and find some alone time while everybody else is focused on all of these other moving parts. So I would say that there is a definite possibility of that happening.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Of course. Thank you.
After meeting with Dr. Gloria Studenberger, I flew all the way to the East Coast because I knew exactly who I needed to speak with in order to get to the bottom of this. My plane went all the way around the world from the West Coast to the East Coast, and I was lucky enough to get an appointment with Dr. Gretchen Schlitz von Tremorraut Weidenberg von, for short, is what they called her.
Oben Gaul Grutschens van Augenslagen, der laut Rundenstall Darenbergen Stirgelschmidt, ja. From the Meyer Oscar Institute of the Psychosis and Colonoscopies. Yeah.
Thank you so much for making the time for me today. I'm trying to get to the bottom of this event that occurred in 1989. You're familiar?
Oh, yeah. I know about this with the phallic symbol of the Vena and the non and the feminine anime. The shoelace is a very if a man feels his shoelaces are inadequate, his shoelaces will in fact become untied and limp. So we have somebody who is, we are going to be looking for the person with the athleticism of a jackalope and the femininity of a vet shoelace, yeah? It's not just any CIA plot, the president. I think we're looking at your run-of-the-mill psychotic person with the Vena envy, yeah?
So you're saying you don't think it was either Reagan or Bush, but probably just someone with wiener envy?
I think perhaps. I mean, there's a lot of shame. We can see this for people who put the ketchup onto the Wiener instead of the robust mustard. This is a vimp.
A vimp.
Mm.
I see. All right. Thank you. You've given me a lot to go on. I was about to go down a rabbit hole of politics, but now...
Good luck in your investigation.
I'm sorry?
Good luck in your investigation.
My what?
Investigation.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
Mm.
I may be in touch. Armed with the knowledge from Dr. Gretchen Schlitz von... what she said, I felt like I was getting closer. In any of these types of investigations, we need to focus on the true, what we know to be true, and not get distracted by the rabbit holes. So I felt like I was blessed with the knowledge to look for someone with Wiener envy, someone closer to home, as W4 taught me. And that's when I was contacted by a very interesting person. Did not want to give me their name. Did not want to be put on camera. But of course, I'm a documentary filmmaker. So I filmed our meeting, and it went a little something like this. I hear you have knowledge, something about this case.
This the hot dog thing?
Yes, the
Shoelace thing?
hot dog shoelace thing of 1989.
Yeah. It's crazy, man. It's crazy.
What can you tell
This
me?
is- I don't want to get too deep, man, but this goes pretty deep. This goes, I mean Tiananmen Square, Russia and Afghanistan, all that crazy stuff is just, it's almost nothing, man. It's almost nothing by comparison. It's really important.
Yes, it has obviously my life has been overwhelmed by the I need to find the truth here. Is
Right.
there anything that you can give me to bring me closer to that?
All right. I don't know who you've talked to. I assume you talked to some important people, got some information.
Yes.
You talked to Dr. Haugen Slotten, Fraugenblatten, Schmengi.
You heard about that?
Yeah. I hear stuff all the time, man. I hear stuff all the time. I got my ears open, man. I'm listening to all the information that comes in. They tell you about the skyscrapers, man. Skyscrapers, man. By definition, they are 30 stories tall. They told you that, didn't they? Did they tell you that?
Skyscrapers were mentioned, as well as a file cabinet, but not the 30 stories. 30 stories.
They are 30 stories tall, exactly. By definition. It's a fact, man.
You're telling me that a building that is 31 stories tall is not a skyscraper?
No!
32?
Something else. I can't tell you that. It's a skyscraper secret. It's too deep, man. It's too deep. I can't take you down that road, man. I can't take you down that road. It's too crazy. You don't want to get into that stuff, man. Let's stick with what you're talking about here.
Okay,
Hot
yeah,
dogs and shoelaces, man.
let's stick with that. What do skyscrapers have to do with hot dogs and shoelaces?
Oh, what do they not have to do with it, man? It's all tied in. It's all tied in, man. It all comes together in crazy ways. All kinds of stuff. There's people that tie into this sort of thing that, they're on buildings, they're off buildings, they're hiding in buildings. It's pretty deep. It's pretty crazy. I think you're fine. I think you're getting in there, man. You're getting into the connections. You're getting into something that maybe you don't want to mess with, man. You get too deep into this, there's gonna be trouble, man. It's gonna be problems. Watch your step, buddy. Watch your step.
Thank you. The anonymous man in the piano bar refused to give me his identity or how he was involved. But now I knew that skyscrapers were exactly 30 stories tall. What did this have to do with the great hot dog shoelace case of 1989? I wasn't sure. So I went back to Dr. Gloria Studenberger to see if she could shine any further light. Doctor, you mentioned maybe it was presidents. You mentioned the Time Warner skyscrapers in Los Angeles.
Yes, that's correct. I called some of my colleagues over at Oxford, and we had a discussion, and I also realized that this phenomenon might actually go back further than we thought. Now, in 1969, there was a documentary on the British royal family that was suddenly pulled right after it was aired. And what we realized in this discussion was that a big part of the documentary showed them barbecuing in their backyard. And I realized that they may have been barbecuing hot dogs. Now, there are a couple feature films and things like that, and they've talked about these things that have happened, and there's pictures floating around. And what I've noticed is that Prince Charles himself was wearing shoes that had laces. This is quite unusual. Now, the fact that they pulled this documentary so quickly, but enough people saw it, I believe that they unintentionally started this underground movement of eating hot dogs while your shoes are untied. So I believe that whoever committed this act is somebody who would be knowledgeable of international relations and political movements. And they would also have to have a love of all things taboo. So we're looking for somebody who really understands the seedy underground workings.
Thank you.
Yes.
So what Dr. Gloria Studenberger told me was it wasn't necessarily something that was a national incident with political entities involved. It was perhaps an international incident. I knew who I had to go to for my next interview, and that was the expert on 30-story skyscrapers, the one and only Petunia Peppercrack. Miss Peppercrack, what can you tell me about 30-story skyscrapers and what this might have to do with eating hot dogs with broken shoelaces?
What do I know about 30-story skyscrapers and hot dogs and shoelaces? It's a very interesting question. Who have you been talking to, Mr. Durkin?
I can't give my sources, but I heard something about an possible underground with the British family.
I feel like I've already said too much just by being here. Honestly, Princess Diana, Princess Margaret, my cousin Alfie may have had some involvement, but listen, I can't say that I worked for MI5 because I didn't. But if I had, I would tell you this, sir. Knowing, as you may already do, that a skyscraper has exactly 30 stories, what kind of person might have access to a place like that? Would it be just anybody off the street? Could anybody just go up to the top of a skyscraper, walk around, trip, break a shoelace, pick up a hot dog, go back down to the ground floor, walk away, get in a taxi, get on an airplane, and go back to a random high school called Lifehouse in America? I don't know.
Are you suggesting that this person may have actually been royalty?
I'm gonna say that they might not have been not royalty. They might not have been not royalty. Was Elton John involved? I don't know. Can dogs eat chocolate? I don't know. I would look for, who likes dogs? Yorkies.
The Queen.
I didn't say it. You did.
Thank you. Thank you, Miss Peppercrack.
Be careful with that information.
Thank you for endowing me with it, Miss Peppercrack. Armed with Peppercrack's brain spices, this investigation got a little more tasty. And as I was planning my flight to England, I was contacted by someone who had heard the podcast and had some information for me. She said her name was Arista K, and I flew to northern Iowa, where she lived, to meet with her and get this information face to face. Miss K, thank you so much for contacting me and being a listener to the podcast. Did you give us a rating on iTunes?
Yes.
I digress. Thank you. What information can you give me?
Well, there's been a lot going on, and I definitely started listening to podcasts more and more. And there was an Elton John podcast as well that I really like listening to. And there's one thing he did say. He said dogs cannot eat chocolate. They cannot have chocolate, especially Yorkies.
This keeps coming up. So how did they explain on whatever podcast you heard this on how Yorkies may be involved in hot dogs and shoelaces?
Well, Yorkies love hot dogs, even though they're dogs. And Elton John had his own podcast, and he explained how Yorkies really love hot dogs. And there may have been some shoes involved that had some broken shoelaces as well, but no one could ever find the owner of this actual Yorkie that was going around.
The Yorkie had shoes or Elton John's shoes?
There were shoes. I don't know whose shoes. It was never fully explained.
Did they explain at all how the Yorkies and chocolate might have any sort of connection to Southern California and Lifehouse High School?
Well, there was this royal family that really loved chocolate, and then one day they just stopped having chocolate altogether. I thought of that maybe Elton John had something to do with it.
That's an interesting painting behind you there.
That one?
Show me the other side one more time. Oh, interesting. Thank you so much for your information. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I got back on the plane and I flew home, and this is when everything just started getting foggier and foggier. Dogs and England and chocolate. That's when I was contacted by the world's leading expert in the supernatural.
Hello, it's me. It's Dr. Tired, Barry Tired.
Dr. Barry Tired, thank you so much.
Thank you. I don't know where you found that last woman, but she seemed to be rambling about nonsense. I believe that blue dye may have soaked in deeper than she intended. It makes no sense. The only thing she said that was correct is that dogs can indeed not have chocolate, ever since they were brought here by the Dog Star Nebula. Dogs have not been allowed chocolate. Chocolate is a treat, and dogs are by nature evil bastards. So no dog ever deserves a treat. And as far as wearing shoes, I doubt a dog would fit Elton John's shoes comfortably, yet the shoes of a jackalope would be a perfect fit.
Jackalope, that keeps coming up. So you're saying that I can pretty much scrap anything Elton John related or anything?
No, I never said that. It's just that her order of facts were so confusing, I wonder if she didn't drink the rest of that blue dye. It's crazy to think such a thing. And I work in the supernatural, and I think it's crazy. I know one thing. I heard someone else mention skyscrapers being 30 stories high. Yes. Hopefully the sky will not ever lower. Although from what I've been reading in my tarot cards, it may indeed happen any day now. But not until a mystery hot dog and a broken shoelace are linked together.
Are you saying that this hot dog and the shoelace may be tied to the next apocalyptic sky storm?
Perhaps dogs aren't the only creatures that were destined to be on Earth from another planet. The next one may be on its way now.
Okay. Well,
it's only a hop, skip, and a jump to get from here to the next nebula.
That is very good information for my podcast. Thank you so much, Dr. Barry Tired.
Thank
With
you.
all of this, my head was spinning. dogs, hot dogs, chocolate, dog star nebulas, the world, the sky crashing down on the top of skyscrapers. I had to clear my mind and head home. I went back home and I sat in the basement and I poured myself another bowl of frosted mini wheats, and my father came downstairs. Dad, would you
Go jackalopes! Oh, son, are you okay?
My head is in knots, Dad. I don't know what to think anymore. I talked to my old PE coach, Fred, and he told me not to go down this path, and I should have listened to him, because now I've opened the door of 30-foot skyscrapers and hot dogs and dogs and chocolate and the supernatural, and I don't know what I'm
Supernatural?
Yeah.
Wait a minute. What's so supernatural about what it is that you're trying to find?
I don't know at this point. My knots, my notes are knots, and my
Who is this guy that you talked to?
Dr. Barry Tired.
Oh, come on. He's a joke. He's a joke. It's crazy. This Dog Star Nebula thing? Is that what he's bringing up?
Yeah.
Oh my God. I've had this talk with him a long time ago. And it's ridiculous. You know, son, you're on the right path to finding the solution to this, but think about this. You know, honestly, it's something that does go back to 1989. Why do you think we haven't worn shoelaces since then? I haven't done that.
Yeah, I thought you were just a hippie.
No. I don't even eat hot dogs.
So what are you saying, Dad?
I'm saying that you need to keep going to find the solution to this.
That's funny. I was just staring into my bowl of cereal and I was feeling like I needed to give up.
No. Son, the only advice that I can give you at this point is just don't step on a crack in the sidewalk.
But Mom's been gone for years, Dad. What do you care about?
I know. It's just you're bringing up feelings inside of me that just they come out. They it's been so long since I've seen her, and you're on this path. I mean, I want you to finish what you're doing and come back.
And maybe when I get to the bottom of this, Mom will fall in love with you again, and we can be a happy family.
Son,
I can do it.
I know you can do it. Please remember, wherever you go, there you are.
Thank you, Dad. I love you.
I love you, son.
That trip back home was exactly what I needed to get recharged and reinvigorated on this case. I knew I had to get to the bottom of this, and I feel like I was closer than ever when I just started, so I headed back to visit that W4 to connect the dots between this skyscraper and forget all the other madness. W4! I've heard a lot of stories. I've heard a lot of crazy stuff. But I feel like they've all been rabbit holes and red herrings. Tell me, what does the skyscraper have to do with the hot dog?
There was once a member of the royal family who was shut out. He was forced to hide in normal circumstances, among regular people. He was what we would call the chocolate in the hot dog. He does, in fact, live among ordinary people. No one would ever suspect he was once part of the royal family. No one knows how powerful he really is. In that file cabinet on top of the Time Warner building in Los Angeles, you'll find what you need.
That is the best information I've gotten in the past year. Thank you, W4.
I can't turn off my camera. Do you know how to turn these off? Wait, I'm looking. All right, here you go. Bye.
tried to turn off his camera like Sandra Bullock in The Net. I hacked into his Zoom and I stopped it. But that wasn't before. I already had another Zoom started with Dr. Gretchen von Schlitz von Tremor Raut Weiden von Berg.
An Ruben dan sticken an gan Rückenstinkenstein. Yeah, this is very disturbing news. Here's about the chocolate in the hot dogs. Of course, this will cause the dogs to die. A most horrible death. Yeah, I am thinking perhaps this also leads into the royal family. That there is perhaps a deep shame and psychosis. Somebody wants to kill a Yorkie because of the deep shame of not wanting to admit that in fact they are a queen. So we are looking at perhaps Elizabeth or some psychotic person who is out there killing the dogs and then selling it perhaps as meat of the jackalope. This sickness must be routed out and stopped.
Thank you. I agree. And that's what I'm out to do. Thank you, Doctor.
Happy to say, yeah.
I ended that Zoom so I could meet with... I'll just go ahead and call him Deep Throat, since he didn't give me a name the first time, and that sounds important. He called me and invited me to meet with him again. I was very hopeful this time that he had more constructive information for me. Listen, Mr. UK Hat.
Just call me just Mr. UK is fine.
Mr. UK?
Yeah.
What can you tell me?
Look, man, I've been following your stuff. and looking around. You're getting close. You're getting real close.
Does it have anything to do with the file cabinet on top of the Time Warner building?
That's because that file cabinet is one of the few known homes of a jackalope. Have you heard of the jackalope?
Yes. Everyone's been mentioning it. Even my old PE coach Fred talked about a jackalope. What about a jackalope? The jackalope lives in the file cabinet?
It does. But to get to that jackalope, you had to do something dirty, something bad, something no one would think of.
What?
Stepping on a crack in the sidewalk, man. He had to step on that crack to get into that building, go up 30 stories, find the jackalope in the box. He was obsessed. He was obsessed because the jackalope's name was the same as his. It was the same as did you ever see the movie Smokey and the Bandit?
No.
You never saw it? The truck driver had a dog by the same name. It's the same. He was fascinated by Mr. Rogers. He was fascinated by Herman Munster. Well, the guy that played Herman Munster on TV.
I was born in the 90s, man.
He was fascinated by that cartoon caveman Flintstone, whatever. He was fascinated by the lead singer of Limp Bizkit. They all shared something. They all shared the same thing. A name.
I think I understand.
Think of the name.
No, it can't be true. Get out of here, Mr. UK. You can't be right. I didn't want to believe the truth that he was telling me, that this could actually be the end of the story, where the truth could not be so horrific. That's when my phone rang. All this time, I'd been trying to get in contact with Beth Sawmore. I hoped she was still alive. One day, she finally called me, and I finally got to meet the only witness of the person eating the hot dog with the broken shoelace. Miss Sawmore, thank you so much for seeing me today.
Sure. I mean, I really battled with myself about whether I was going to call you. I thought I'd left this all in the past.
Well, I'm sure it's very painful, and I do appreciate your time.
You know, I've got my own daughters in high school, which is why I'm doing this now, is so that they won't have to live through what I had to live through.
How has this affected your life?
Every time I go to a baseball game, just the smell of mustard sends me right back there. You know, I can't go to Disneyland. I can't go to certain grocery stores that smell kind of mustardy. It's terrible.
I'm sorry.
It's terrible.
And your kids, you mentioned they're in high school. Has this affected them in any way?
Well, they're not allowed to do any kind of extracurricular activities. I drive them to school and I drive them home, and you know, that's that. I just don't want them to have to live through something like that.
I know this is hard for you, and I do appreciate you calling me. But when you called, you mentioned you remembered something about that day.
It's not so much that I remembered. It's that I am just shocked that no one was. I was scared as a kid, right? I tried to give as many clues as I possibly could without incriminating myself, but nobody put it together. I know who did it. Think about it. What is the only 30-story building within blocks of Lifehouse High School? The Princess Margaret apartment complex. And who lives on the 30th floor of that? Well, I had to do some digging myself, and I found out. Do you remember from my interview how I heard a couple things?
Yeah.
I heard a rattle.
Yeah.
It was the rattle of someone who had their own keys. I heard a zip. It was a zip of a pants, and I heard a womp, womp, womp of somebody punching their own small wiener. Of course I heard it. And who has the most to lose from eating a chocolate slathered hot dog, the most unhealthy food that there is? Someone who bills themselves as a model of health. And you know our Lifehouse mascot was the jackalopes, right? Look, I said that I burned that wrapper, but I did not. I've kept it for the last 32 years. And there was a doodle on it.
Is that a jackalope?
Yeah, that's a jackalope.
Thank you.
Clearly it's a jackalope. It's a very good doodle of a jackalope.
Thank you, Beth. Thank you, Miss Salmore. Thank you for taking the time. I knew where I had to go next. I went straight to the very person who I've been searching for all along, and I spoke to at the very beginning of all this, and I said, "Look at this jackalope on this wrapper!"
I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know if you've been listening to my podcast. If you have, could you at least rate it on Apple Podcasts? But I've gotten to the bottom of this. I know the truth. And I think it's about time that you confess to it.
All right, look. I may have been lying to you. I may have not been telling you the truth. But it was for your own good. I don't know how to say this any other way, but I'm the jackalope. That's right. All right, let me explain. So, they want you to think that Charles is the only son out there, that there wasn't another. But I was the other. And the Queen will never tell you that. The Queen will never tell you that indeed. So, she sent me here. She sent me here to this ugly, ugly country. To hide. To live in squalor. To live anonymously. And so I did what I could only do. I found an identity. I found a school and I hid, but I couldn't let it go. And so one day I saw my chance. I was walking along And there was an event at the school. And it was Ronald Reagan. It was Ronald Reagan who had come to the school for what he calls a barbecue. And so I came. I loaded up and I showed up. And he was there, and there was this other man. His name was Bush, I think, or something vaginal. And he stood there with Ronald, and they were eating these hot dogs. And the strangest thing, they ripped off their shoelaces. And they measured their wieners, but not the ones they were eating. As if this was something they did. So, curious, I walked over and I said, "Who won?" Because that's the only question you can ask at that moment. Who won? And they said, "Well, would you like to play?" With a twinkle in their eye. And I did. And I can say with confidence that I am half the man that either of them are. And the loss struck me deeply. But they saw that sadness in my eye and they said, "We can help you, young man. Tell me about your story." So I told them the story. The president and vice president, I told them my story, and they were mortified for me. So we came up with a plan. We came up with this master plan, and it was brilliant. I was to go to the Elton John concert in Los Angeles in 1989, and I was to be part of his tour. That tour took me all the way to Royal Albert Hall in Kensington, and right across the street, the Albert Memorial, where that bitch the Queen would be that very night, because she and Elton, she would have private audience. And that disgusting Yorkie that she brings with her everywhere would be there too. And so I did the only sensible thing. I poisoned that little bitch, the dog. I shoved some chocolate right into a hot dog. And I gave it to that dog. And I said, "Here you go, Snookums." I got my revenge. The Queen was devastated. Absolutely devastated. But then, the best part. President Mr. Reagan said I would be set for life if only I could retrieve one file from a file cabinet in the 30-story, the tallest skyscraper there can be. Because as you know, 31 stories is a sky piercer, not a skyscraper. And so I found it, and it was in my own town. An exact 30-story high building. It was the apartment I had been living in. Can you imagine? The room right next door to mine had the file cabinet all along. And so I rented that room instead. And I found the file cabinet. And do you know what was on that file? Do you know what was on that file?
Jackalope drawing?
It was me!
You are the jackalope.
It was me!
What happened in the gym?
There was a moment of weakness. I'm not proud of it. It was weakness. After my defeat at the hands of the president and the vice president, I said, well, I must find someone who is smaller than me, someone I can measure up to. And in the gym, I found him. And we ripped off our shoelaces. And I proudly measured it out. And his was less than. And so, with triumph, I ripped the shoelace that still had a little bit of the penile sweat upon it from his hands. And I wrapped it around my hot dog, Not that one. The one I was about to eat, for triumph is consumed. And I went out to that football field. And I sat down on that bench. And I consumed my victory. And I laughed. And that is what victory smells like.
Well, Coach Fred, you will pay for this. You will do your time, and America will know. Nay, the world will know that it was you. And this is the broken truth. Ladies and gentlemen, I know we're running a little bit late, believe it or not, but let's have a big hand for our entire cast here tonight. Give it up for Darren Ingram, Karen Bond, Amanda Benjamin, Tom Carosa, Jane Brucker, Todd Stubler, Caitlin McCormick, Dari Mills, Danny Roque, and Craig Jackman. Give it up for stream director Sam behind the scenes, running all of the B-roll and the music, and generally stressing out because he has another show to begin in just a few moments. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you, cast.
How long can we stay on and stress him out?
And thank you, everybody, for joining us. Yep. All right. So we got to get going. We'll see you at Quarantine with Friends starting as soon as we let Sam go. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night. Thanks for enjoying the broken.
No, I'll go. I want to tick off Stephanie because she'll come after you.